From JBS Studios in Greater New York, this is the JBS News Update with Teisha Bader.
I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Wednesday, July the 5th, 2023. Israeli troops have left Jenin after a major two-day counter-terror operation launched early Monday morning aimed at rooting out terror in the refugee camp known as a hotbed for Palestinian terror activity and a sanctuary for Palestinian terrorists. The IDF said in a 48-hour focused counter-terrorism activity targeting heavily armed terrorist groups in the densely populated Jenin camp, no non-combatants were killed. Fact, the IDF said, when we say we make every effort to protect civilians and only target terrorists, we mean it. Israeli Defense Minister Yoav Gallant was cited by the Times of Israel telling the press today that the goals of the mission were met. Gallant saying it may take another round or two, but the situation today is not the one we faced at the start of the week. Since last year, the IDF notes over 50 shooting attacks were carried out by terrorists from Jenin. In the operation this week, the IDF, together with Israel's security agency, the Shin Bet, dismantled terror infrastructure, including destroying several explosives labs and confiscating weapon caches and making dozens of arrests. A reported 12 Palestinians were killed in the operation. All, according to the IDF, were involved in the fighting. As Israeli troops began their withdrawal overnight last night from Jenin, an IDF soldier was shot. He was treated at the scene but died of his injuries. He was later identified as 23-year-old Sergeant First Class David Yehuda Yitzchak from the elite Egoz Commando Unit. He was laid to rest today on Mount Herzog in Jerusalem. A Palestinian terrorist carried out a car ramming and stabbing attack yesterday in Tel Aviv. Israel Police International spokesperson Master Sergeant Dean Elsden described what took place.
We're in Tel Aviv, where behind me a disturbing scene took place where a terrorist used a vehicle to injure 7 individuals in a car ramming attack. This terrorist got out of his vehicle and attempted to continue the terror attack by stabbing more civilians with a sharp object. Luckily, there was a civilian that was in the area who was armed, managed to neutralize this terrorist and prevent a much larger attack from taking place. Right now, the victims are in 2 different hospitals, Bellingston and Ichalov, in various conditions, and our thoughts and prayers are with them and their families at this time.
6 of the injured remain in the hospital today, including 2 women in serious condition, one of whom was pregnant but lost her baby as a result of her injuries. And last night, 5 rockets were fired from Gaza toward Israel. All were intercepted by the Iron Dome. The IDF said in response its fighter jets struck an underground weapons manufacturing facility overnight used by the Hamas terrorist organization, as well as a raw materials manufacturing facility for rockets belonging to Hamas in Gaza, and that the IDF holds Hamas responsible for all activities emanating from Gaza and will face the consequences of security violations against Israel. Turning to some other news, an Israeli-Russian citizen is being held in Iraq. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's office said Elizabeth Surkov has been missing in Iraq for several months and is being held by the Shiite militia Kataib Hezbollah, said to be a radical group backed by Iran. Netanyahu's office said, "We hold Iraq responsible for her safety and well-being." Surkov, the office said, is an academic who visited Iraq at her own initiative pursuant to work on her doctorate and academic research on behalf of Princeton University in the U.S., adding the matter is being handled by the relevant parties in the state of Israel out of concern for Elizabeth Surkov's security and well-being. Israel today marked 17 years since the Second Lebanon War. Israel's President Isaac Herzog, who took part in the ceremony, said of the fallen, they were different from each other. They reflected a mosaic of opinions, lifestyles, and beliefs, but what they had in common was the unity and eternity of Israel. And staying with the president, Herzog earlier this week announced the 13 recipients of Israel's Presidential Medal. recognizing, he wrote, an extraordinary contribution to the State of Israel, the Jewish people, and humanity. The recipients include Senior Advisor to Morocco's King Mohammed VI, Andre Azoulay, former Justice Minister of Canada and Israel advocate Erwin Kotler, and singer-songwriter Chava Alberstein. The awards will be given out in September. Taking a look now at our programming for tonight on JBS. For Wednesday, July the 5th at 7 o'clock, it's Talmud Study. That's followed by a look at the famed Touro Synagogue in Newport, Rhode Island. At 8, co-directors of the Omni-American Future Project, Aryeh Tepper and Greg Thomas, explore stories of Jewish contributions to the history of jazz. At 9, the late Sheldon Harnick is featured on L'chaim. At 10, part 2 of a Cantorial concert from the Krakow Jewish Festival. And coming up next, it's Thinking Out Loud. And that's the JBS News Update for Wednesday, July the 5th, 2023. I'm Teisha Bader. Stay healthy, stay well.